to boldly go where no one has gone before. My thoughts on Star Trek Mission New York on today's Wednesday Morning Drive. Hey everybody, Matt Cribbs here, and welcome to another Wednesday Morning Drive. How are you doing? I'm doing great. It is a beautiful fall morning, actually. It's got a little Christmas in the air. It's cloudy. Well, it's normally cloudy, except for where I'm sitting right now, where the sun is shining in my eyes. So, hey, we got glare again. But it's a nice day. So hope you're doing well. Hope the last week has been good. It's been kind of busy for us, but not too bad. The big thing that happened was on Sunday, the family and I went to Star Trek Mission New York, which was a Star Trek convention at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, organized and run by ReedPOP. And I have mixed feelings about the convention. So we'll start with the good parts. Basically, it was a Star Trek convention, and I love Star Trek. It's a great franchise. It's got a great fan community, just so much cool stuff involved with it. And to be in a place that was just dedicated entirely to Star Trek was so cool. Like, there was all sorts of stuff you could buy, little knickknacks, little spaceships, really well done, reproductions. They had I don't know what organization it was or what group it was, but they had a life-size replica of the original series Enterprise bridge that you could go stand in a really long line to get your picture taken on. I did not do that because 2.1 was with me, and he would, babies don't like lines. But they also had a whole lot of replica props that they had made from the screenshots of the original series. And it was actually kind of cool because you look at them and you look at this prop and it's a hunk of wood painted red with some other hunks of wood on it that are painted different colors. And you're like, that looks like crap. But then you compare it to the screenshot and you're like, well, the real thing looked like crap, so that's what it was. Oh, the days of non-high def television when, you could really get away with things like that. Actually, one of the guys I talked to said their props are probably better quality. Their reproductions are probably better quality than what they had in the show, because they can spend all the time they want on them and don't have to bang them out to meet a production schedule. But anyway, that was really cool. Lots of vendors there. Star Trek Online was there, which is a really cool MMO Star Trek game. I like role-playing game. I like Star Trek. We might see more about that in the future. Star Trek Timelines, which is a mobile app I play all the time. It's one of those kind of, pay-to-win type things, except there's not really any winning in Star Trek Timeline, so it's more like pay if you don't have patience. It's a collectible thing. You collect things. You collect a lot of crew, and the gameplay is really secondary. You're really just collecting stuff and leveling up your numbers and whatever. And you can pay to do that faster, but since there's not really any point to the game, there's not really much point in paying because it doesn't get you anything. I'm going to squeeze through here. So they were there. Star Trek Bridge Crew had a demo set up of their VR stuff, but I couldn't get in because it was all booked. But, that looks really cool and might be the killer app for me to get a virtual reality rig. We'll see. And, of course, there were tons of celebrities there, spanning pretty much all franchises, from Shatner and Cohen to from the original series to Frakes and Sirtis and McFadden and Dorn for Next Generation. I'm not going to continue doing this. Connor Trinneer was there, who's one of my favorite actors from Star Trek Enterprise, which is a series that gets a lot of crap for not being good, but you know what? It really had really good parts of it. Yeah, it's so unfortunate that series didn't really fulfill everything it could have been, because it did have some great actors and great parts to it. But there were a lot of people there, and I'm certainly not going to go through everyone. especially by their real names, because when I'm doing that, it's so bad. I think of their character. I'm like, oh, Worf was there. Worf is played by Michael. So whenever I'm trying to list people by the actors by their real names, it's hard for me to do. But, you know, they were all there. And, you know, being around, and of course cosplay, there was quite a bit of, there was some really good cosplay. And then there were just a sea of next generation uniform shirts, most of which were wearing black pants, but not all of them. So it's a Star Trek convention is a little different than other types of conventions, because in other types of conventions, usually you see cosplay, people in costumes that range from really, really amazing to really, really bad. With Star Trek, it's a little different because you see people that are doing cosplay, and then you see people that are just wearing a uniform shirt. And I don't think that I would call that cosplay. Like, but they're cool, so they wear them. And I'd say it was almost 50-50, the number of people that were in street clothes versus, you know, in a Star Trek uniform shirt. So that's kind of a different experience from like a general purpose con. But, you know, still cool. Oh boy, it was the first day of school in New Jersey yesterday, so I am now in school traffic. I'm going to have to vary my route to avoid this or not come in when it's school hours. Anyway, so that was cool, and it was fun. Oh, there were also some board games. Star Trek Ascendancy. I bought that. Oh my gosh, it is an amazing game. I might do a whole review of the game. It's not out yet. It's in pre-sale. It should be out in a couple weeks. But I would definitely say go buy that game. Yes, it's $100, but it is an amazing, amazing game. It's one of those, you know, expand, 4X, I think they call it. Explore, expand, exchange, and exterminate. I don't know what the 4X's stand for, but it's kind of like Civilization or Catan or one of those types of games. It's really, really awesome. So that was the great part. That was what was so awesome. And I came away from the convention being like, wow, this is really cool. And I had so much fun. And I did have so much fun. But, you know, as the days go by, there were components of the convention that actually really are leaving a sour taste in my mouth, and that are, you know, just kind of brought down the entire experience. And, you know, I don't know what the root cause of it is, but I'll go through what the things were that I did not, that really rubbed me the wrong way about the convention experience, and, you know, maybe do a little bit of theorizing. So the first one was, and, well, okay, there's one more thing I'll give credit for. Forget it. All right, I think ReedPOP really dropped the ball running this convention. I'm not going to pull punches. I think they horribly, horribly mismanaged the convention, to the point where, you know, if it wasn't just so great to be at a Star Trek convention #1, and this would have just been, if this would have been like a regular gaming or comic convention that was run in this way, I would have said it was an utter disaster. The only thing that saved this convention was the fact that the property was something I loved so much and that I enjoyed it. But other than that, I would say ReedPOP did a crap job at running Star Trek Mission New York. So that's out there. That was my opinion. Now, why is that? I will give them credit. The assets they produced for the convention, the badges and the banners that were hanging in the convention center were beautiful. They were gorgeous. You can see one on my Twitter, but, you know, pictures of the cast with quotes on it. The badges had stylized art of the characters. We went on Sunday, so we had Janeway for the adults and it was a Worf for the kid. It was a really cool, so that the physical assets were well produced and good quality, and they were really cool. So, and the program was actually very well produced too. I enjoyed the physical program we got. And from there, everything goes downhill. To begin with, it was small. It was a surprisingly small convention, given the fact that it was in New York City, which is, you know, just a huge place. And they have all the resources. Everything about this convention in the vendor space fit into the North Hall of Javits Center, which is the smallest hall, and it fit in with tons of room to spare. Like, aisles were really wide. There was a huge amount of space around the edges, and in the front and the back. I mean, there were not a lot of exhibitors and vendors there. I would say, and most of the exhibit area was taken up by NASA, which is awesome that NASA was there. Very, very cool, because, I mean, who better... the tie between Star Trek and NASA and so many people working in technology and space are because of that show. So it was awesome that they were there. But they were the biggest booth by far. I think even bigger than the reproduction of the set. But, you know, the majority of the other ones were demos by, you know, the game makers, demos a couple board games, and then, you know, a few vendors that were there. And, you know, like most conventions, well, most of the vendors there were selling stuff that you can just buy on Amazon, and they were selling it for more. There was very little stuff that was exclusive to the convention. Star Trek Ascendancy pre-order was, well, not pre-order, but they were selling versions at the convention. They had done it at a previous convention, so that was a limited thing that you could get by getting there. I will give Star Trek Online guys credit, whether it was Perfect World or Cryptic. I think it was Cryptic. But they gave away codes for some in-game items in that game, so that was cool. But almost everything else you could just buy online and get it for cheaper. So, you know, that experience over every individual participant that was at the convention was awesome, but taken as a whole, it was very underwhelming. It was just like, I walked in and I look and I'm like, and I looked at the program, and I looked at stuff online, and I knew who was going to be there, but I still walked in. I'm like, this is it? It was not good. And then the second part of it was, you know, they had divided the area into the vendor area was in the North Hall, and then on the ground floor, they divided the big room in Javits into two separate areas. One that was for panels, and then they had the main stage off to the side, and then one that was for autographs and photo ops. And the layout they did of that, and they may have done it on purpose. If you don't know Javits Center, it's a big open area with some pillars in it, and they have dividing barriers that can set up the area into rooms in many, many different configurations. And they had set it up as kind of an H shape, and, you know, two wings. One that you go into to get to the the panels, and another one that you go to get into photo ops, and you had to go, I mean, it was kind of set up like you went into one, and then you had to go back out and down the hall and into the other. And it just boggles my mind why they did that. I mean, even like rule number 28 or whatever it is, you know, have as good a flow, as open a flow of your space as you can. Even airports that have a choke point that is specifically designed to funnel people through one small area, make those areas as efficient as possible. Like if you go to Newark Airport, they have it where they don't have a lot of space for a wide checkpoint. They've made it long, where they have lines that are staggered. And even places that are designed to be checkpoints, people who know what they're doing spend the time to try and minimize the impact of those choke points on traffic flow. Whereas at this place, they actually set up dead ends. So you had to go down, and then if you didn't want, you know, turn around and go all the way back, and then go down a narrower hallway to get, and it's not that narrow, it's pretty wide, to get to the other area of it. And it's like, it boggles my mind why they did that. Maybe some misguided, you know, theory of having a choke point or limited access, but if you have movable walls, you can still have limited access and not have dead end areas. And to get around this, I mean, it was obviously a flaw in the layout. I mean, to anyone who spent half a second thinking about it, you could tell it was flawed because they actually had to post a person at the end of the hallway telling people there's nothing else down here. There's nothing else down here. And if you have to have a person whose job it is to tell people they're not going the right way or there's nothing else further down the hallway, then you've done a bad job laying out your space. Like, the space should let you know that there's nothing else there, or it should be connected. Just go around the outside and connect them. So you have a big circle with the stuff. And anyway, bad physical layout on that. And, you know, I would say the staff was, it was a mixed bag. There were some of them that were super friendly and super knowledgeable about what was going on and super, you know, helpful and nice. And some of them were kind of the typical surly New Yorkers you get, like, you know, whatever, my job is just to keep you out of this area. I don't care. Go away. Don't bother me type style. I'm not going to ding them too much for that because, you know, it's New York. You get people like that. That's the way it goes. And you can't avoid it. Everywhere is like that. So, you know, neutral on the whole staffing issue. And then the final part, and actually I think the most offensive part to me as a fan, was that the talent, the actors and actresses and people that were there were completely isolated from the entire convention. And that is not a normal thing for a convention. I've been to many conventions, and yes, they have the photo ops that you can pay money for the posed photos, and yes, they have the guys in the booths where you can go buy the autographs, but never have I been at a convention where that is the only interaction you can have with the people that you're really there to have this experience with. I mean, the closest I got was Michael Dorn was being escorted through the autograph area to a photo op by a security guy, and we happened to make eye contact and nod at each other. And that's it. That's all you could do with anyone unless you paid money. And that's just utterly ridiculous. Yes, some celebrities don't want to interact with their fans, and you can set up the areas, and conventions do set up these areas to cater to that. They can come in through the back door, they can go directly to their booth, they can go back to the restricted area, they can go to the photo ops, and they never have to interact with the fans at all. Other conventions, you'll see the guys coming out, they'll be at their desk, their area signing autographs, and they'll be getting up and walking around and talking to people and you know, walking the floor and interacting and letting people take selfies with them for free. This happens all the time at every other convention that I've ever been at, or most of them that you've read at, but not the way these guys set this up. And I can only assume it was just a blatant money grab, that there was no ability to interact with people, with any of these celebrities, other than forking over your money for an autograph, or forking up, you know, a lot more money for a photo. And it was very disappointing, because, you know, that's without, I don't know, the fans and the cast are really what makes the convention. As an organizer, you know, you're there to make money, but if you're going to restrict that access and you're going to really lock it down, you're not going to want to go to a convention. Like, many more conventions, if conventions were all like that, and they were all run this way, where, you know, hey, here's a chance to spend a ton of money to get this photograph of someone signed. You know, it's not really about the autograph. It's about the ability to talk to people. Half the fun is going, who am I going to run into at these things? Like, that's what makes conventions so great. And by taking that away, you know, whatever, I just won't bother. I'll go buy the stuff I want online, and I'll be like, you know, it's not worth it for me to spend, you know, $200 to get my picture taken with 4 people that were in a TV show I love. It's ridiculous. So, you know, it really did not like that portion of it, and that you know, they made that money-based interaction with the cast to be the sole focus and purpose of the interaction for them. And it's like you missed ReedPOP. You got what your goals were, but you missed what your audience wants, and you missed that audience interaction. And I don't know what this guy is doing. He's trying to back out into me, and there's no space. Anyway, so that was my thoughts on Star Trek Mission New York. Overall, I am happy I went. I enjoyed myself. I did not spend a single dime to get an autograph or a photo, and whatever. I'll get over it. I doesn't bother me, but I am disappointed in the way the convention overall was run. So I don't know. They're running Comic-Con. It's an entirely different thing. Comic-Con is so much bigger, and there is so much more going on, and there is such a different level of the A-listers that are going to be there, and all the way throughout the scope of the industry that it's a different experience. And maybe that's the lesson, is that they took things that work in bigger conventions and tried to run a smaller convention with those same rules. I don't know. That's a more charitable theory. So have a great week. I will talk to you next week, and live long and prosper, because Star Trek. Bye.